everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, and today I'm going to be talking about In From the Cold, Season 1, Episode 1. It's called What is Burning? This is a new show from Netflix as a first episode, so I'll start spoiler free. I'll give you a warning before I go into any spoilers, but we'll dive into it. The basic premise of this is that we have kind of like a Black Widow style situation where we have an ex-Russian spy who is now a mother with a teenage daughter, and she's been living a normal life, hiding her past for the last 15-20 years, and she's found out by the CIA, who now recruit her in dangerous missions, and if she doesn't do them, she'll go to prison, and she wants to try and keep her life with her daughter, so thus we have secret missions going on. Honestly, like, it's described as a spy show. The title even makes it sound like a spy show, and I guess it kind of is technically, but honestly, it's more superhero-esque, just because, one, we have the secret identity element of it. The idea of doing missions with someone on a computer, like talking to them, is very superhero TV. And there are powers, which is the other big thing, that's hinted at a little bit throughout the episode, but then by the end of the first episode, it kind of fully shows you, okay, we're full in science fiction superpower territory here. I'll get it out of the way. This was a bad pilot. It's a bad show, and I do not want to watch any more of it. I'll get that out of the way right now. If I was to sum it up, I would say that despite the fact that it's on Netflix, and that there's some F-bombs dropped and whatever, it feels through and through like a cheap network pilot. All the cheesiness, all the tropes of like the spy show you might get on NBC or CBS, like, they're there. It feels like that type of show. I rolled my eyes and even laughed at a few moments in the first like 10-15 minutes, because like when the CIA first show up, like they're all wearing sunglasses and they're taking their sunglasses off almost in sync, and the main like the handler guy, who's like being really intimidating at first, is trying to be all cool, and he's putting his sunglasses on as he says something, and he's doodling. He doodles while he talks to her because that's his little quirk. It just really bad. Just everything about it felt kind of rough. Directing isn't exactly stand out either. It's a pretty cheap looking show, all things considered, and it's funny because the star here is Margarita Laviva. I'm probably butchering her name there, but she was in The Deuce. I've seen her in a few things. She's this mum who's the ex-spy, who's a bit of a badass secretly. And the first time, because when they first bring all this up, it's kind of out of nowhere, and it's like there's been no hints that she's anyone but a mother, and then she starts kicking ass, and like it's a female cover of a Limp Bizkit song starts playing as she's like beating up CIA people, and it's just it has that. We're going to put in the pop song. Not that I describe Limp Bizkit as pop per se, but you know what I mean. We're going to put in the popular song, and we're going to have them be cool. There's a montage later on as well where she's trying on different outfits and she's trying to get back into sexy mode because the mission they're putting her on first is requiring that of her. And that also made me kind of roll my eyes. There's a lot of cheesy. She even has a Black Widow style suit that she has to wear. And the moment they bring it out in a case and she kind of cracks some jokes about it being this, sexualized suit, and they're kind of defending it. Like, it felt like such a network pilot, such a network TV show with all of the tropes, and it's like, this is how we introduce superhero suits in TV shows, not even recently. Like, this is like a 20-30 year old thing. In fact, the flashbacks in this episode are to the 90s, because that's when she was properly like active as a spy, which meant she was really young, because the actress, I checked because I thought, wait, is she old enough to have been like operating as a spy in the 90s? She doesn't seem that old. And she was born in 1980, so she's 42. And the flashbacks that take place that we see in this episode are 1994, which means she was 14, maybe 15, at the start of her active spy career. Which, okay, it's borderline, but like, fair enough. Like, if that's what we're doing, that's what we're doing. Admittedly, by the end of the episode, we do find out she has a trick up her sleeve, which is probably why she's used as much as she is. But yeah, it just full of cheesy tropes, full of generic TV writing and moments where we're supposed to think characters are cool or badass, and it just comes off as really lame. I felt that throughout the whole thing. It just feels lame and cheap. And I mean, I laughed at it. There's a moment earlier on, like when she first gets kidnapped by the CIA. It happens when she goes into an elevator, and all of a sudden there's a man in like a black suit and sunglasses who throws like a smoke grenade into the elevator, and it just comes out of nowhere so much that it made me cackle with laughter. It was not like I couldn't take any of it seriously. That section of the episode in particular. The rest of the episode is just really generic. Like it's setting up a very simple premise, which it may be a bit more serialized because it's on Netflix, but you could totally see this being like an episodic, like, case of the week style show. I feel like it wants to like hit bigger topics. It wants to try and be deeper or more serious, but honestly, whenever it tries, it just feels like a bit of a caricature of like something else. So I really cannot recommend In From the Cold in any way, shape, or form, unless you just really want another generic spy superhero type show that you might see on NBC. Like, that's basically like all I could say, and a lot of it is pretty lame. Yes, and a lot of it is also just stuff we've seen before. Like, I could easily compare a lot of the tropes in this to several TV shows. Even the spy who's called in because they've got this past, and now they're going to work for the good guys, as it were. If they are the good guys, I mean, he says he's CIA. Do we believe him? I don't know. And the thing that sort of prompts all this at the start is there's a weird sequence at the start where like 3 different people randomly throughout Spain all like commit crimes of some kind. It's like they've been mind controlled, where their eyes kind of flash, and then like one guy throws someone off a roof. A woman stabs another woman in the street, and then there's a guy in a bus who just like suddenly turns into a raging racist for no reason. And it's like, okay, and this is reminiscent of our main character's crimes in the past, because she was such a good assassin because they called her the Whisper. It was almost like someone else was always there to take the fall, so they speculate that someone's doing whatever she could do. It doesn't seem that way, like, because we see what she can do by the end of the episode, and it feels like it is a different power. And I don't think that's spoiling it to say, given that there's powers involved. Even the powers themselves feel a little bit kind of like weird and tacked on in this first episode. Like, you could totally see this being played straight without any superpowers. And that's not to say that it would be better or worse without the superpowers. It's just to say that it's another thing that feels like, oh, we're doing this again. Like, there's no spark to anything in this. Just no spark. It's just lifeless. It's a lifeless TV show. So that's a shame. I hate to be that mean, but some shows call for it. I guess I'll say spoilers just in case I say anything that is of any, care to anyone past this point. I'm tired. I can't speak apparently. Yeah, so spoilers. And there's not much to spoil here. You've got your typical stuff where the reason why they're in Madrid in this opening episode is because her daughter is a figure skater, and she's there with her fellow classmates. And I thought they were a little bit younger, but I think given a line of dialogue later on where they're excited that the drinking age is 18, I assume they're all 18, because they were excited that they could drink. And yeah, there's some family stuff. They do the thing where the daughter says, "Oh, my mother is like so boring. I wish she'd be more adventurous." And of course, as she's saying that, her mother's like suiting up in a cat suit to go and infiltrate what she thinks is a hospital, but is actually a prison. And I swear there's just like 24 prisoners chasing her to try and rape her towards the end of the episode. Like, that's really what's happening. Which leads to the reveal of like what her power is that she can actually shapeshift. And the effect of this, like showing her morph into one of the prisoners, it looks like, it's like a werewolf transformation where her body's contorting, or maybe Hulk's a better thing, because I actually thought for a minute she might be a Hulk. The way she was kind of like contorting, and the like parts of her body were getting bigger and thicker, and I was like, oh, what's going on here? But then like it's just a bigger person, but it's not like a huge person, and it's just it looks like one of the prisoners that was chasing her. So it's like, oh, okay, so this is why she always got away with the assassinations, is because she impersonated other people when she was doing them. Okay, that's your cliffhanger. That's your hook at the end of the episode, is a superpower. It is teased earlier on when she shakes like the IT guy's hand, like her hand glows red a little bit to sort of like, hey, there's going to be superpowers in this. Which, if you didn't like, if you hadn't seen the premise or heard someone tell you the premise, I don't think you would assume there was going to be superpowers. Maybe, well, I suppose the opening with the eyes glowing before they do something out of character, I suppose that tells you there's something. But like, I could have bought that was like technology or something, like someone had made like some fancy mind control tech or something. But by the end, it's like, oh no, we've got outright superpowers here. There's a series of flashbacks to her younger self in 1994, in the early days of her career, when she's kind of falling for a girl, but the girl she's falling for is kind of like her target, and whoever's in charge of her berates her for it by the end of the episode. This really made me laugh because whoever it is like in a cloak and you don't see her face. She's walking away, she just randomly like puffs out her cloak, and you get like the big sound effect of the cloak kind of whooshing, and it's like, why are you doing every cheesy trope in the book? This is everything about it was making me roll my eyes at this point. I mean, that stuff is whatever. Obviously, I occurred because it's in Russia at this point, and I'm like, wait, like they're kind of holding hands in public. I'm pretty sure Russia's not that forward thinking when it comes to gay relationships, and sure enough, they get harassed pretty quickly. But it's more of it doesn't go down like an uncomfortable path where it's like, oh, they're in danger. It's more like, no, this girl she's with is also kind of a badass, and she kind of beats them up a little bit. And there's not a lot here to really latch on to, I don't think. There's kind of like a submission before she gets the catsuit, right? To go and like try and interrogate this dude who's meant to be in this military hospital, although it turns out to be more of a prison. Is she has to like get like an eye scan of someone so she can get inside the prison, and it basically involves going to like this bar, and she's supposed to like, use her feminine wiles to seduce this guy and get him passed out so she can like use this device to like scan his eye, and that'll like, then they can replicate it in like a little contact lens and blah blah blah. And she sort of like thinks outside the box and says, you know what, screw this. I'm older now. I'm not going to do this like seduction bullshit. And she just like kicks over the guy's bike outside the bar and like blames it on someone and just sidelines him or blindsides him, sorry, and knocks him out and gets a scan that way. And she actually says, well, that was easy. And that's the end of the scene. It cuts. And all I could think was, yeah, it was easy. There wasn't a whole lot of tension there, or anything. And don't get me wrong, like the idea that she's going to try and do things differently because she's not like, in her late teens, early 20s or whatever anymore. Like the closest any of this got to being remotely interesting, like it might have a new lens to analyze this on, is when they're trying to convince her and saying, no, you have to go do this. You have to go and like seduce this guy and get his eye scan. And she says, yeah, I used to do this when I was like young. I'm a mother now. I've got a C-section scar. Like this is not me anymore. Like I can't just do this. And like I said, there's a whole scene where she's like drinking the little mini bottles of booze, and she's like trying to like sex herself up to feel like this old version of herself. And like there's almost like something that could be there about a character doing this, but the execution of this show and its writing is so like lowest common denominator and broad that it's hard to really like see any of the depth that could be there in anything. The idea of someone sort of like rediscovering their youth or like getting a second lease on life and having it be through the machinations of like being a spy and a superhero or whatever. Like there is something that you could do with that premise, but unfortunately this is the most generic thing that it could be. I really can't think of how it could be any more generic. Like, what could you do? Because I'm assuming that the guy she hates that's recruited her, like, she'll end up feeling affectionate for him at some point. Like, that seems like something that's going to happen. I'd be shocked if it didn't at this point, to be quite honest. Like, what else? What else could they possibly do? All the things that I could suggest that they could do is stuff that I expect they will do later. So I think that's me. I don't think I've got anything else to add. Eye rolling, generic. Don't waste your time. You know, if you do happen to watch the show, let me know what you think in the comments. It's an 8-episode season, so have a look, see if you're into it. I guess I would not recommend it though. Even if you're a fan of this type of genre, if you're a fan of this type of setup, I don't know what it's going to offer you beyond anything else, to be honest. So thank you very much for joining me. You can of course like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, all that usual stuff. It helps us out a lot on YouTube. You can also support us by going over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and supporting for a little as $1 per month. But otherwise, that is me. So thank you once again for watching or listening. I always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?